Let's take a look at the really big story that we continue to track, the developments which have happened in Qatar. We've got a very special panel with me in the studio. Commander Rajiv Sardana, you know the family members in this particular case, those who are in jail now in Qatar. We're joined by Captain Alok Bansal, Sanjeev Arora, the former Indian ambassador to Qatar, the longest serving Indian ambassador over there, Captain D.K. Sharma, former spokesperson of the Navy, and Gopi Gujarati, a family friend of one of the veterans over there as well. But let me come to you first, Commander Sardana. Is it your sense now that it's going to be a very lengthy jail term unless there is relief even there?
See, this is a very welcome step that has happened today. But one must also remember that it's been almost 16 months of incarceration for our brother officers. It is just not the officers who are going through, a very tough time, their families, plus their colleagues like me who have served who are with them. So we are, it's not a victory, it's a minor relief at the moment. It's a step forward. And we're hoping that the process will take its due course, and they will be, getting not just their sentences suspended, but also will be able to come back to India soon.
And what is the process ahead legally?
They have another court to appeal after the judgment, and thereafter, which will take almost 3 months' time, and thereafter, if sentences are not further reduced, then one has to appeal to the Emir of Qatar.
Right. Let me just go across to Captain Alok Bansal, who joins me at this stage. Captain Bansal, I mean, it is welcome news, of course, that these men will not face the shooting squad. But is there also a hope that perhaps they might come back to India to serve their terms here if there isn't complete relief in this case? Because there is an agreement between India and Qatar that allows jail terms in Qatar to be completed in India for Indian nationals.
It's quite feasible that now that the sentence has been reduced, that these people will come, but it will probably have to go through the complete process of law, which requires another review and maybe then going up to the Emir for final relaxation or whatever it is. But even pending this process, Government of India can initiate the process for extraditing them so that they can complete their sentence in Indian custody. And then, of course, once they come to India, they would be able to meet their family members and the whole thing can be looked at de novo. So that's a process. But ideally, I think we would like that the whole process gets completed so that they are completely exonerated and brought here as respectable citizens and not to complete their sentence in India as per the agreement. That would be, I think, the ideal process. But today's development is a big relief as far as we are concerned, as far as India is concerned, because these people who have been in custody for such a long period and had been sentenced to death, there was a Damocles sword hanging over their heads, which has, I think, now been removed to a very great extent. And it's a very positive development. And I think this stems from Prime Minister's meeting with the Emir, which...
Right, we'll just analyze all of that in a moment. Let me go across to Ambassador Sanjeev Arora. He served in Qatar longer than any other Indian ambassador. Thanks very much for being with us. Are you optimistic of the road ahead and a pardon, if not at the Court of Appeal, then at the level of the Emir, Ambassador?
Well, Vishnu, let me first mention that there are 3 dimensions to it: humanitarian, legal, and diplomatic. Now, in terms of the humanitarian aspect, it is a huge relief, as we all agree, for those who have been in custody in Qatar, and they were given this the harshest sentence, the death penalty, and for all their loved ones. And legally, it is a big step forward. So we would now need to see. We means it would be the legal team in consultation with families. The government, of course, has been facilitating, assisting. That always of any government is it's a foremost priority in terms of the well-being and welfare of our nationals. So I think we'll have to see how this moves forward. I think it may not be appropriate on my part to speculate as to what would be further developments, but certainly a big relief anyone putting ourselves in the shoes of their families, ahead of the new year, I think what could be a better news, when someone is given death penalty. Well, the biggest relief is that that has been commuted.
Yeah.
And as it plays out, of course, as other colleagues have said, there is the final court of appeal is the court of cassation in Qatar. And after that, of course, if required, there is this laid down procedure of a mercy petition to His Highness the Emir of Qatar. So that these are really the further steps. And diplomacy all along in any such situation plays an important role. At times it is overt. In a case like this, with all the sensitivities involved, where even the nature of charges is not in the public domain, I would envisage that it is predominantly through the covert route. That's all I would say.
Right. I just wanted to go across to Gopi Gujarati. Gopi Gujarati is a family friend of one of the veterans. Could you tell us which veterans are, and could you tell us a little bit about this veteran and why you believe that these charges are fairly preposterous? The allegations are preposterous.
Namaskar. At the outset, I want to express my deepest gratitude to the leadership of the country and media houses, NDTV to be specific, and the fellow Deshvasis. I happen to be from Sainik School Korukunda, and Commander Sugnakar is my classmate of the 8 officers. And we feel that after this 8 officers put in 30 years of service in the Indian Navy, the premier organization of such high repute across the world, I don't think better sense will prevail, and we thank both the governments for all the support has been extended. It's a huge relief for the family and friends, and in course of time, I think they should be back in country. That's our prayers and wishes.
What are the families saying? What are they thinking right now? The fact that yes, obviously there is incredible relief that the death sentence has gone away.
Relief, Vishnu.
But what about the fact that the jail terms are, as I understand it, fairly expansive, many years, and different in each case?
Absolutely. So from the time we got to know from August 2022, when they were taken into custody, and for a certain period of time, we were completely in black, in dark as to what is exactly happening, kind of. They were supposed to be repatriated. Subsequently, that didn't happen, and then they were moved into silo confinement, which put us, family and friends, under huge stress. Then there were consular access, and subsequently the sentence, which was completely out of the blue. So we all been through a great amount of actually torture, considering because I come from Sainik School,
right,
and our school has contributed close to 500 officers across 3 forces, 500 plus officers. So we are very well acquainted with the way services work and what the caliber and integrity of these officers. So,
sure, I get that point. And in fact, I wanted to just go across to Captain D.K. Sharma, who also knows many of these men personally. When allegations of espionage, Captain Sharma, arise, in this particular case, it seems bizarre because all of these men, even the sailor in this case, distinguished, has done well. Many of these officers held important commands. They commanded warships. At all times, you are under scrutiny in the Indian Navy. There is an active process to ensure that you are clean, as it were, and therefore for people to change their stripes to many in the Navy and many who know them seems absolutely bizarre. That's the bottom line, right?
Absolutely, Vishnu. The point is now a huge relief has come, but the point is now the legal angle, as the ambassador was saying, there are 3 angles: humanitarian, legal, and diplomatic. It has been a way forward insofar as humanitarian and diplomatic angles are concerned, but now the legal teams have to really get on to the work and exonerate our 8 officers and 1 sailor, 7 officers and 1 sailor, because actually speaking, all these charges are not going to stand the test of time, let me tell you. It is all a conspiracy or whatever you may call it. It is, I think they are the victim of circumstances and plus maybe a business rivalry over there. Because all the force, what they were doing was only teaching. They were not in the business of, collecting information and things like that. They are only teaching the Qatari Navy officers.
Right.
So whatever is required, they were doing that, and that is also was happening year on year. Every time they were bidding, they were contracting, and they proved to be the best, and that is why they were getting it.
Yeah. Ambassador Arora, you've had an opportunity of meeting the Emir of Qatar. You've been honored by the Emir of Qatar as well, as I understand it. You were part of this huge effort by the External Affairs Ministry. In many senses, you led that effort to develop the strategic partnership when you were ambassador over there. Could you tell us about how that relationship is actually very strong, which is why there is, in this case, hope?
Well, thanks, Vishnu, for recalling a few things about my tenure. Indeed, it was a very eventful, very fulfilling tenure, and it was truly an honor. It comes as a surprise to an outgoing envoy that His Highness accords this honor of the sash of merit. Now, certainly, it is in all practical terms, I would call it a comprehensive strategic partnership. In fact, I at times wonder why this has not been formalized as a comprehensive strategic partnership, but hopefully that would also happen. I mean, it's a very deep-rooted and multi-dimensional cooperation. I can go on and on, give you so many examples, be it investments, be it the import of LNG, nearly 2/3 of our global import of LNG. Our diaspora, more than 7 lakhs out of the total population of Qatar, which is about 25 lakhs. And so on and so forth. In the realm of defense, I know from my 4.5 years tenure there that the cooperation was developing extremely well. In fact, shortly before I ended my tenure, I recall the visit of the then Vice Chief of Naval Staff, who later, soon thereafter, became the Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Sunil Lanba, for this biennial Defense Expo, DIMDEX. And we had regular goodwill visits by our Indian Navy ships, Coast Guard ships. So I think all in all, as far as the relationship is concerned, certainly I'm very upbeat. Also, in terms of how, there would be further developments in this particular case, which is sub judice, as I said, without speculating. But I think I would be, the development of today itself has given hope, a lot more
right?
Hope. I think it's a very big development, and I would be, and also, you see, if I may just take another 30 seconds, I think in case the issue reaches the Amiri Diwan, that is His Highness the Amir's office, well, I don't know the charges, I have not seen the judgment and so on, I don't know the nitty-gritty of it, but he is certainly a benevolent monarch.
Right. Well, let's hope that is true in this case as well. Commander Sardana, let me just ask you a little bit, sir, about what the families have gone through for the last 1 year. I mean, this came as a bolt out of the blue. There were certain allegations which were raised. These officers were told to pack and leave, and they were packed and ready to leave when they were taken into solitary confinement. From that to a jail process, difficult to get consular access, finally that did take place. Could you tell us the ordeal that they've gone through?
See, for the families and their colleagues like us, it's been a very harrowing time. But for the families, they do not understand probably one thing, that this is a cooked up case. Reason being, I being a submariner, I understand that 99% of the Navy has not stepped onto a submarine. All these officers are not surface Navy officers. They've only been on ships. Submarines are complex. If you don't know anything about submarines, how can you espionage about submarines? Secondly, what is the motive? These officers have been highly decorated officers of the Indian Navy. They have been handpicked to serve in a to train a foreign navy. They are getting good money. They have been, they're the best of the best that we had here. What is the motive to do something like this? There is no motive at all. There is no ability to carry on such espionage because they're not trained some mariners only. So what I feel is this is a harrowing time for the families, but they're still standing strong, and we are grateful to the Indian Navy and to the Ministry of External Affairs for supporting them. But it's just one step ahead, and the ordeal is going to continue for the families till the time this gets over.
No, absolutely. Let me just go back to Gopi Gujarati. Is there any other message that you can share, for our viewers from the families, who are going through this entire ordeal? Some of their reactions. I believe in one case there were daughters of one officer who actually got married, their father being in jail. It's been horrible for them, for a period of time. Gopi Gujarati, go ahead. Captain Bansal, I'll come to you after that.
Yeah. Vishnu, there's no two ways about it. For the kind of harrowing time we went through for the last 16, 18 months now, most of the family, in fact, Commander Sugunakar's father happened to be our teacher also in Sainik School, and is one of the finest officers in Indian Navy and very decorated officer. And he has done across the globe in one of the warships while he was in service. So we have no words to express what we have gone through. And in terms of family, we just can't quantify the kind of pain they have gone through. It is telling on their health. My teacher, Mr. Ishwar Sharma Garu, and madam and wife, children and sisters, and not to mention our classmates who are 100 plus who have studied together. So it's been a very, very tough time.
Right, I can imagine.
Hopefully it comes to a
positive
favorable
conclusion.
closure very shortly.
Captain Bansal, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to say that two of the officers had their daughters get married during this particular period. They had to get married while their fathers were in jail. I had the good fortune of visiting this company, actually, Dahara Global, just a few months before this incident. And this company was doing a phenomenal job training Qatar Navy. They had set up their naval academy. They had different verticals, repairing ships, training the naval personnel, and had made a name for itself. Now, this sort of a thing has actually been a big setback. They had actually delved into a field which had been the sole preserve of Europeans. The Gulf navies or the Middle Eastern countries, their armed forces have by and large been trained by Anglo-Saxon world or by the European countries. This was a unique case where Indians had made a breach into that sole preserve of the Europeans. And I think there were a lot of business rivalries. At this stage, it is difficult to say what will happen. But please remember, these people have been in custody for over a year. So if sentence is less than that or is probably a little more, they'll probably, the time that they have already spent in jail or in confinement would be counted against their prison sentences, and maybe some of them may be set free immediately, because as of now, I don't have an idea of how much the sentence has been reduced and what are these varying sentences which have been given to different people, who has got how many years. So once we know that, we'll probably know when these people will be able to come back and be free and be in India.
Well, unfortunately, Captain Bansal, it appears that the sentences are very, very substantial. And of course, while time spent in jail is important, I think, from what we are hearing, it is a very, very substantial, and therefore the next step of the battle is really going to be as big a battle as what we've seen over the last couple of months. Would you like to add, sir, anything to that last point?
I think, something built on falsehood will not sustain itself forever. This is an impossible case in the sense they've been framed. That is my personal view, because they are not capable of doing something against the grain. These officers have not been, done anything wrong in the Indian Navy. They've been decorated. What makes you think that they'll do something, bring their own name down, their family's name down, and the name of the country down, and the Indian Navy's name down when they're in a foreign land? It will not stand that when this case gets over, they will all be exonerated. They'll come back clean. That is my personal belief.
One of them is a sword of honor, right?
Yes. Oh, it's just not the sword of honor. They've done, so many years of service. They've all been, they're equally smart, brilliant. That's why they were chosen to be there. Otherwise, not everybody is capable of going and serving in a foreign nation, a foreign navy.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll leave it over here. Let's hope that the process forward does go well. The involvement of the government absolutely critical. The role of the Prime Minister, which we've seen over the last couple of months, again very critical. But let's see what happens going forward. We leave it over there. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us.